Nicole Purin. She is Deputy Legal Counsel from OKX Exchange. So welcome, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you very, very much. Once again, I'm very happy to be here, and I think this will be a very interesting discussion, because also I'm actually working for OKX, so it'll be interesting to hear the views from our panel of experts. So I would like to invite Eric Apollo, Alex Fazel, Ronald Mahondo on stage, and I believe Jason Meyers is going to he's going to be connected with us via by conference call. Thank you. So I think Jason will be joining us shortly. Hi, Jason. Can you hear us?
Perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining. So we've got our complete panel here. Fantastic. So wonderful to have you here. And, just for the benefit of the audience, we'll just do a round. And if you can kindly introduce yourself, starting with Alex.
Hello, everybody. By the way, thanks for starting the round of applause. That's very sweet of you. This is kind of like awkward in the beginning, and then everyone kind of catches up later. My name is Alex Fazel. I'm the Chief Partnership Officer at Swissborg. We're not an exchange per se. We're more like the Sky Scanner of crypto, where we connect to 5 exchanges' order books to get you best prices when you buy and sell crypto, but also best risk-return DeFi yield, so you earn interest on your favorite assets. Thank you so much for having me today.
Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here. My name is Ronald Mahondo, the CEO of Maramoja Transport, which is a DeFi-ready transport and logistic platform as a service, transport as a service, and software as a service network built for Africa and emerging markets.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Apollo Eric, CEO and co-founder for Bitlipa. We are on-ramping mobile money users across Africa into DeFi and crypto, and also facilitating small short-term loans for businesses across the continent. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And Jason, if you could kindly also introduce yourself and your line of business. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Jason Meyers. I am the inventor and lead architect of the Audit Chain Protocol. We provide the world's first Web3 financial disclosure and assurance infrastructure for issuers of digital assets and issuers of traditional assets.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to be asking just a high-level question, which I think is relevant for all of you, and it would be great to hear your views from your angle. So starting with Apollo. So digital asset exchanges and fin services are becoming more globalized. I mean, we are seeing this trend throughout. So my question is, what do you see as the growth prospects for exchanges, and what should be the strategy going forward? I mean, clearly you're looking at it from, a different maybe business angle, but it's very important to hear your views throughout. So starting with you, Apollo, thank you.
Most exchanges across the world are offering very, very basic services. So there's a lot of payments, and payments, there's B2C, B2B, and also a lot of peer-to-peer. There's a lot of trading services on exchanges, derivative, but most of the data is focused mainly on spot trading. And then there's also a lot of cross-border remittance. I think these services are going to continue to increase in terms of the number of people and geographies that they're serving, because already in our exchange, Bitlipa, we are doing less than 2.5% in terms of remittance across the globe. And if you look at the other legacy systems, they're doing 6% to 30%, depending on where you're sending and receiving money. And I think the trend is more and more people will discover the value that, say, stablecoins are offering for payments and even cross-border remittance, and they're going to join in. So if you look at something like, for example, e-commerce, it's like a 7 trillion market, but only 2% of it is happening in Africa. That means that we have like 98% upward potential that is untapped. And the only thing I expect is the trend to continue growing. So I think what we need to do is continue building services that are easy to use for our users and can reach the people that need it the most. So internet is already penetrating and most people have smartphones. So can we bring down all these services to people's mobile phone in a way that they can consume these services in a user-friendly manner anytime? So the strategy really is to smoothen the path for entry for everybody and make it easy for almost all businesses to connect and interact with these services so that they can receive payment from wherever they are. You know, we don't really have to go through intermediary like it used to be. You can be able to be an artist in Kenya and receive your payment all the way from Berlin. That is possible right now at a much, much cheaper rate. And we need to continue building this protocol to enable this.
That's very interesting indeed, and I think as clearly the drive for globalization becomes more and more consolidated, I think that's where the direction that we're moving towards. So, Ronald, what are your thoughts on on exchanges and globalization, growth prospect, strategies? What is your take?
Yeah, I think for me, exchanges are trusted middlemen, and they need to remain so. Because especially if you look at this year, the exchanges which have gone down and have really affected the market in terms of consumer sentiment. So I think what the exchanges need to do is to build back the confidence by coming up with ways that can be able to assure the common uninitiated investor to be able to put their money in these assets. And generally, for me, I'm very bullish in terms of what I think the contribution for exchanges will be going forward, because the underlying technology is actually very solid. And I think also there's a lot of opportunity still which is untapped, as Apollo has correctly mentioned. And for us, maybe from my point of view, being a DeFi-ready logistics platform, we actually use the exchanges to be able to convert the crypto fiat pairs. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially from an African point of view, because there's a lot of arbitrage in terms of financial arbitrage around regulatory arbitrage around Forex and stuff like that, that is DeFi can come in and solve. And I think there's a huge role for exchanges in that aspect.
Thank you. Well, certainly Africa is, there's so many, opportunities out there, and the future is there, as they say. So let's see how it progresses. So, Jason, I hope the audio is good up there. You're very high. So give us your thoughts on exchanges, globalization, exchanges, and strategies. Thank you.
I feel like Bill Gates when they put $150 million into Apple at that Apple conference. If anybody remembers, I'm dating myself. So this is a really good topic. I come at it from a different perspective. A lot of people in the audience, their first introduction to financial-like services is blockchain and crypto. I've lived under the regime of a regulated environment my whole life as a banker, so it comes second nature to me. But one, I'd like to plug these two other gentlemen. Africa is a gigantic market. And Africa, if they do the right thing, they likely would not even need any other jurisdiction in the world. And it's a population that would benefit so much from seamless integration of financial services, value storage and transfer, utility, that they're definitely a huge contender in the world. The way I look at the role of exchanges these days, if you look at it from a global perspective, is you cannot get out of the way of the United States. And the United States, as most people know, is a hegemony for regulation and for tradition. And I'm being very diplomatic. Since 1934, they've had a disclosure framework. And all exchanges in the world have a similar disclosure framework where the exchanges themselves provide their users, their clients, financial disclosure. And in a world where crypto exchanges and crypto itself is suffering some of the biggest hacks, in history, we think that providing or articulating financial state to its users is going to become a critical element. So I come from a different perspective, not just because of what we do, but what we do really comes from a perspective that sees this very, very clearly, right? If you think that you want US people to participate without these types of compliances with frameworks, then you either need a Ruth Bader Ginsburg to take you all the way to the Supreme Court to change the law, or you need a bigger standing army, because they're not going to adopt new regulations just because it's made out of crypto. I think the SEC has been very clear about that. And we also come at this from a perspective where, the largest base layer that people build on is Ethereum. And Ethereum, as everybody knows, just went through a proof of stake to proof of work to proof of stake transition. And it's something that we call a quantitative regulatory compliance event, because sooner or later, regulated banks are going to hold the majority of ETH at stake, which means those that don't believe in regulation are going to flee to other chains so long as you don't interact at all with the Ethereum chain. So these are my perspectives that I wanted to pepper the panel with. It's a dose of reality. If you've lived under a regulatory regime, it might be easier to swallow. If you haven't, a lot of you might be angry. But that's where I see this.
Thank you very much. And I think you touched upon regulation. Actually, the next question that I'll pose to the panelists also deal with that. So probably we'll have to return to some of the points you raised. But what about you, Alex, now, going back to the main question? Thank you.
Are there any Coinbase users here? Okay, 2. Any Binance users here? OKX users here? Swissborg users here? I'm out of here. Okay, no one's using Swissborg. You guys suck.
Well, things are going to change. After this panel, things are definitely going to change.
I'm just kidding.
Hold on. We're in the process of opening an account with Swissborg.
So for me, it's like I'd love to talk about the strategy side specifically, because I think it's really important that we put in the spotlight what are our current weaknesses, right, before talking about how cool we are. And one of the biggest weaknesses that all of us have is that in the beginning, probably Coinbase users or Binance users, it was extremely simple with great support. But since the technology is evolving so quickly, so many new features, so many new products, it almost looks sometimes like a Chinese restaurant menu. They're like, for us in the West, it's overwhelming, right, when you have 100 different types of foods. So to me, one of the biggest challenges we have in our world is how do you keep the user experience extremely simple while adding new features? And that is technically very difficult to design. So that's number one. Simplicity is key, right? Number 2, 60% of all global stock markets have one thing in common. They're all automated products. ETFs, pension funds, mutual funds, indices, all of these products that take over the majority of finance are all automated. It's not DIY. In crypto right now, it's mainly DIY. I have to select the coins, I have to rebalance, I have to do all these things. And that's why at Swissborg, we're really focusing on bundle products that take away all the difficulties and pain in the ass tasks that you have to do on a monthly basis. So automation is number 2, simplicity, automation. And then the last one, as you guys are all mentioning, which is a segue for you, Nicole, is regulation. But regulation is not enough. Everyone's on a spree and trying to get a license in all the countries. The licenses are just the base layer. You got to understand localization is going to be more difficult than getting a license because you got to understand the culture. You guys in this room are all from different countries and backgrounds. You need a different approach. You need to be able to translate the language, give support in their native language, advertise, have all the content created in a different language, not just an app that switches languages, right? So localization is something that is really misunderstood in the world. And the biggest example and fail in United States history was Disneyland moving to Paris. By thinking that they actually, by creating Euro Disney and having everything in English and thinking that like Paris was the center of Europe, but without understanding the localized cultures, lost tens and close to $100 billion in terms of mistakes. It's not just licensing, it's localization and understanding people and their culture.
Thank you so much. I mean, you bring up so many, different and interesting points and strategies. So thank you very much for that. Definitely taken on board. So I have a question on regulation for the panel. I mean, look, we all agree that the regulatory infrastructure is clearly very critical, for the support and the development of the industry overall. And we do have different trends globally. Some, clearly some jurisdictions are more friendly. I mean, are more kind of inclusive of, digital assets development than others. But I would say that overall, UAE is clearly driving the sector. Is really, they've done some, in my view, some very, very positive initiatives to create a hub for the digital assets world. So I just want to know if what your thoughts are about the regulatory infrastructure here, specifically VARA and HGM or DIFC. I mean, clearly, still these regulations are still evolving. But do you have any views on what is being done here in UAE? Maybe starting with you, Alex.
Yeah, I think it's really moving. I came here, guys, 2 years ago for the first time. And just being super transparent, I'm sorry if it may offend people, but 20 to 30% of the people I met were scams. Like, literally. Like, it was scam world across the globe. Now, thanks to VARA, thanks to UAE with their progressive mindset, the quality of the people has changed. Look at people in this room. Everyone's amazing. I haven't met a single scam here. I went to World Blockchain Summit. I was speaking there. Not a single scammer. Maybe a few dodgy, projects here and there. But the quality of the people is what really attracts me. Dubai had, of course, all the tax breaks and benefits since 1962, I believe, or 68. Don't quote me on the exact date, but it's been here for a while. But what attracted the people was really, number one, showing that they're open to crypto, right? That was number one. Then it brought in some influencers, some YouTubers. Of course, there are OGs here. But eventually, now it's attracting, with the VARA attracting the big exchanges, now it's attracting devs. I'm meeting engineers here. I thought it was only sales and biz dev and marketing people, but you actually meet engineers. So I'm very bullish on the future of Dubai. I think it's the right step forward, and obviously Europe, as we talked about yesterday, is on a decline. So I think I'm grateful to be a part of this ecosystem.
Thank you so much. I know that these are, of course, observations that I agree with, and there's a lot that is being offered here on the grounds, and hopefully there will be even greater clarity, in the next couple of months, from regulators in UAE, and more talent will be, attracted, because this is one of the key strategies of the UAE as a country to ensure that talent moves here and are happy to live here and really help the ecosystem across the board, not only in the digital asset space, but in many different sectors, artificial intelligence, robotics, innovation generally. So Jason, any views at your end on regulatory framework, any particular favorite jurisdiction, views on the UAE as a whole? What are your thoughts? Thank you.
Well, I certainly echo what Alex said. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say this. My first time I was in Dubai was last year, but I was confined to my hotel room because I had caught COVID. But the UAE is certainly an innovative jurisdiction, and they're fighting to become the #1 jurisdiction for crypto. In fact, Crypto Valley, big elements of Crypto Valley is cooperating with the elements in Dubai to really help them bring the crypto space into a position where Dubai can lead from a regulatory as a jurisdiction. You had mentioned favorite jurisdictions, which is an unfair statement. Because Switzerland is my favorite jurisdiction. Why is that? Because never has any sovereign nation been so painfully clear about guidance. And if anyone has ever read the 2018 FINMA guidance, for Switzerland, it was unambiguous. And if you contrast it with the United States, it was clearer than statements that come out of regulatory frameworks in the United States. I was really surprised as to how clear it was, which is one of the reasons why, or if not the reason why, there are almost 1,500 crypto projects here in Switzerland, right? But Switzerland and the UAE are becoming tighter and tighter and tighter. We're blockchain brothers. So as far as the United States, as I said, they're a slow-moving monolith, and they rely on well-settled law based upon a well-settled framework. But the barriers to entry are high for those that want to play in the United States. Most projects don't have the 1 to 2 million for initial compliance and don't want to spend the $500,000 a year at a bare minimum for ongoing compliance. And that's just securities law compliance. Whether or not a thing is a security or not is a different conversation, but the initial offer and sale of the thing requires securities law compliance. You're relying on a group of people, you're investing money, and the people that are investing money are expecting a rate of return. That's a 1946 case that is well settled. Like I said, I've already spoken my piece as to how to change that, but those are my perspectives, right? And it's not hard to provide financial disclosure. It's really not.
Thank you very much. I think we're coming towards the end of our panel. So I would just ask Roland and Apollo just to give us the final views, and then we can wrap up the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think just to mention a word or two about regulation, I think from my point of view, if you look at crypto in general and the pains that these ups and downs of the market have caused people in terms of wiping out, in some cases, money from billions of dollars, it calls for regulation. And I think it's some of the triggers that basically push several jurisdictions towards looking at how they can protect their consumers. And if you look at what is happening right here in UAE, I think it's part of that wheel that is moving. And I think crises are normally the key triggers which create confidence in the market, because you come out stronger once you introspect. If you consider like what has happened, let's say in the traditional banking, where the Basel committee was formed as a result of crisis on that side. I think also on the crypto side something similar might happen. And looking at regulations at the industry level, I think there needs to be standards that which are similar to the ETH20 token standards, which enabled ICOs to be launched, because at least the industry agreed on something. But on the regulations by government, I think there are specific considerations that each jurisdiction will have, which probably will be based on macroeconomic and geopolitical issues. But I think in general, having an industry standard will provide a basis where it will guide each government in terms of how to be able to approach it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are registered here at the DMCC. Dubai is great, UAE is great, and I've had a chance to speak to some of the regulators, and their concern is how do we protect consumers from market manipulation by exchanges. This has happened a lot. You know, there's a lot of front running, double dripping, and even if you go beyond that, I mean, how do we as crypto exchanges also become responsible in this field and just, you know, take the lead in terms of self-regulating, because some of the services we offer, still there's not very, very clear framework to be able to regulate. The questions they're asking is, how do you prevent money laundering? How do you prevent things like terrorism financing using crypto exchanges? Because already there's a lot happening. If you look at the big exchanges, it's like they're under investigation. I don't want to mention names, but you've seen this on press. I mean, how do we even prevent things like tax evasion? Because these are businesses that are making profit, and we need to be able to report and pay taxes. So if we as businesses are responsible like that, because they're opening up the market, but I'm very sure bad players still will always come, you know, to take advantage of the situation. So the responsibility starts with us, because, you know, if you look at what has really fueled the growth of crypto exchanges, it's been retail market. It's only right now that the institutions are starting to get in, because, you know, they don't want to miss the piece of the cake. And even if you look at how they're coming in, they're investing in businesses, not really buying the coins. They're actually investing in businesses which are maybe staking some of the coins as part of their portfolio. And I think UAE is really on the front line in becoming the crypto capital of the world. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You know, definitely there's been an evolution. We're seeing that. Of course, globalization and regulation, regulatory compliance are key for the future of the industry. And thank you so much to all our esteemed panelists for their views. I'm sure that we learned a lot today from your, from your comments and observations. Thank you so much.